Okay, in this little down and dirty lesson, we're going to talk about something called the amazing mesh tool. Now, the mesh tool is not new. It's not improved in CS6. It's just one of those tools that can really help you make a very distinct, very customized gradient and even use it to add a little bit of three-dimensionality. For example, over here I've got a brush. Now, that's a simple barrel and that's a simple linear gradient. And it does make the brush look a little bit more rounded. And what I would like to do is make the brush head, this part, look a little bit more three-dimensional like this. Now, we all know that we work on a two-dimensional screen. And everything that we have really is two-dimensional. I mean, you can wear the glasses for 3D. Televisions now are coming out 3D, but it isn't really 3D. It's how the mind interprets it. We can do a lot of that 3D with shadows and shading. So on this one, we're going to pick up the tools right here. That's the mesh tool. Put white as your color right here. I'm just going to click this button. Don't worry about the stroke. It'll ignore that. I want white as my fill color. With the mesh tool selected, and it's kind of like a gradient mesh is what it's doing. I'm going to get right about here and just pop one time. You don't have to have it selected. And as you can see, it begins to create a little bit of an illusion that the brush, the tip anyway, is more rounded. Now, we could do the same thing right over here. Leave the color at white, I suppose. Get, I don't know, right here and click. And it begins creating a radial gradient, but one that actually in a minute you'll see we have a whole lot more control over. Now, it works with the pen points surrounding it as well as anything that's on the inside. So if we go and try that same trick on our star, click, say, right about in the middle, we get this kind of interesting look. Actually, that is pretty interesting. But it's working with the points on the in and the out. So let's do this. Let's get out of testing. And let's open up this one right here. A very simple shape, butterfly wings. Now this part right here I just put on top. The wings are one area. If we pick up our mesh tool, we have white as our fill color. We'll leave it at that for now. I'm going to get right about here and I'm going to click. Now you'll notice the lines try to follow the shape itself. And we have almost like this cross shape right here. I'm going to add another one up here. Now you're looking for the plus sign to come up. I'm going to put it about in the same place, somewhere about like that, and click. So it adds another line going this way. Let's add one more here. You see it now goes left and right, and one more here. You can make this as absolutely complicated as you want it to be, but now let's start changing the colors. Let's go to our direct selection tool. Click on this anchor right here, and let's shift click on this one right here. So we have both those selected. Make sure you have the fill here selected. Choose a color. So it begins filling those areas, and it's also competing against all the other anchor points that are saying we're white, we're pushing against you. If we select this one down here, and then pick up this one right here, shift click, choose another color. Okay, so you can see how they're competing with each other, still competing with the edges that are white. Let's go ahead and click this one right here. And shift click on this one right here and give it another color. It's a butterfly. Butterflies have a lot of colors. If we select off of it, you can see how the gradient is being controlled by what paint is in each one of the anchor points. So if we come back over again and say click this one is spilling paint out in all directions until it hits another anchor point that's spilling paint in its direction. We can change that one if you want to. Put it into something else. Up to you. Make it as colorful as you want. You can move the anchor points, obviously. We have the direction lines right here and here, so we can control how the color is distributed. And if for any reason you don't want one of them anymore, you can come over here and click on one of them and just simply press your delete key and remove that one from the set. The mesh tool, I kind of call it the gradient mesh tool because it makes gradients, is a really cool feature. And I'll show you something that took several hours to make. This is kind of like maybe the extension of where you might go with the gradient mesh, and that is a flower. If we go up to the word view on the pull-down menu and go down to outline, you can see there's a lot of gradient mesh going on in this flower. If I take it back to preview, if I pick up my selection tool, you can see that each one of these pieces is a separate object that the gradients were applied to. It's an interesting tool to work with. It is a very powerful tool to create almost photographic-like quality, but like anything else, it takes a little bit of practice to get into it. The amazing mesh tool. On to the next.